The speech on Tuesday from Fayval Williams was a lockout speech. Not a lockout speech, a lockout speech. And what is a lockout speech? A lockout speech in a competitive debate is one in which you hit points that then ties the hands of your opponents from addressing the same points. In other words, you bring forward something and you deal with it in a way so that if your opponent deals with the same issue, they'd be said to be copying you. One, and you deal with it in such a way so that if your opponent tries to improve on what you say, it will be very difficult for them to credibly improve on what you say because you've dealt with it so well. So, if you transpose a competitive debate that many of us have been involved in, high school, university level, the lockout technique is what Fayval Williams would have employed over the length of her budget presentation. Specifically, what do I mean? There are some issues which, in the context of a budget, are big items. People enter budget debates, especially those, well, both government and opposition side, trying to come with the big ideas or the big adjustments to big ideas that will eventually cause people to have more money in their pockets at the end of the day. So Fayval Williams' move on prepaid electricity was a huge lockout moment, because it's very difficult now to see how Julian Robinson or even Mark Golding, or if when he speaks in the sectoral debate, the spokesman on energy, Philip Paulwell, is going to say anything about prepaid electricity that can top what Mrs. Williams said on Tuesday. And so, by saying, look, there are currently 17,000 people using prepaid electricity. The JLP's plan is for the first 20,000 new customers to subscribe to this prepaid service. We're going to give them $4,000 towards their bill for 6 months. And she said, oh, you're going to ask, well, $4,000 is a threepence, as my granny would have said. No, it's not a threepence, because it represents about 50% of the bill of the average prepaid customer. So by doing it and designing it that way and presenting it that way, she went a far way to locking out the opposition on that point of prepaid electricity. And then she went further. She said, all right, we're going to talk away $1 billion to assist with the wiring and the inspection, because a lot of people find that challenging to raise the funds to pay the man to come inspect and pay the woman to come to wire the place, electrician, female electrician, whatever. $1 billion set aside for that. So that completed the locking out of the opposition from the prepaid electricity argument. So even if they come and say, well, we're going to give you $7,000 monthly, and we are going to sign up the first 30,000 new prepaid customers, it's still going to sound like, yeah, copy what she put on the table. So we don't want to hear that. That's the effect of what she said. That's lockout one. The Students' Loan Bureau. It was another lockout moment, but perhaps, well, not perhaps, definitely lacking the detail of the prepaid electricity move. But to show that it was meant to lock out, she said they'd increase the loan window, the repayment window, from what, 7 years now to 10 years, so put 3 years on it. But the money that you're going to pay back is not that it's going to increase, but you just have longer to pay it back. Which means that those struggling students who graduate and the loan payment hit you the moment you start working, when you draw the first paycheck, and it's a struggle to shake off the debt while you live. You keep more money in your pocket because rather than paying over 70 years, you now have 10 years to pay. That's a direct keeping more money in your pocket. So that then locks out the opposition from that part of the debate about the Students' Loan Bureau, because what are you going to do now? Raise the repayment window to 15 years to 12 years? You'll be seen as copying something, Fayval said. Your hands are tied in that regard. And then she said that they would do something about the interest rates. And then they would do something about this other aspect, and that they would raise the amount that students are eligible to get. Not putting any numbers on it, but just mentioning it as a part of the process of locking you out of doing anything to SLB because we moved on it already. And then the government, I think, the surprise for me, I didn't think I'd hear anything yesterday that surprised me, because remember, Tony, I told you that I don't really think that Andrew Holness or Fayval Williams is going to say anything that I am not calculating will be said, because we know what the cards are. I'm very keen to hear what Julian and Mark have to say because I haven't seen their hand yet. And Mrs. Williams surprised me. And you saw the reaction in our news group. PAYE. $2 million over 3 years. So again, it's an attempt to lock out the opposition from the income tax threshold thing. And what the JLP will say is that, look, regardless of what you do anything to PAYE, you're simply following what we did, because when we mooted PAYE to the 1.5, you all said it couldn't work. And your friends wrote all kind of articles breaking down how it would not work. You said it was an election gimmick. So for you now to come and do anything to PAYE, after we delivered 1.5, delivered 1.7, putting 1.8 on the table, 1.9 to come, and then 2 million to come, you are simply following what we did. You have no original idea. So from a debate perspective, the form of Fayval Williams' speech met the mark. Nobody can tell you that it was a bad speech. Them don't know not more speech. Anybody who says that. The substance of the speech met the mark. I will agree, though, with Antoinette Hamilton of the MSME Alliance to say that I think she was a little bit short on things for the business community, especially small businesses. And I know the GCT would benefit them, because a lot of the small business operators, they don't register as commercial customers with the JPS, even though they should. They're still residential customers who use them fridge and them light to sell us products and service and give us services. But I think that there was room to do a little bit more for our friends in the business community, especially after she mentioned the number of people that the Small Business Association of Jamaica covers, and of course Antoinette Hamilton's MSME Alliance covers as well. So I think that's the only part I would furrow my brow and say, boy, maybe you're short there. But I would be curmudgeonly if I complained overall about the budget and what was presented. I say to people, unless you've been in the situation where you're a thief light, or your neighbor who goes out of their way to needle you and to draw you into a conflict, to be able to say to you, for your neighbors to hear, go away, you're a thief light. You don't know what it is to not have the wherewithal to get legal light. And I'm riffing on one of the names of one of the greatest race horses in Jamaica's history. The path to legal light has now been cut through the bush by Fayval Williams. And on the legal light point, it will be very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult for the opposition to propose something similarly intriguing and interesting and potentially more beneficial than Fayval Williams, Andrew Holness, and the JLP administration's path to legal light for tens of thousands of Jamaicans.